plate, grab a seat. Go back to my office and serve breakfast. I need to go back to my office. Kelsey Berry. I am an emotional intelligence and leadership trainer. So I go out into organizations. Like I was saying, primarily I work in financial services, but I work a lot in construction and manufacturing as well. Helping people understand why we do what we do. Does anyone have this challenge where you're like, one, I don't understand why everyone does things the way that they do things? Anyone feel that? All the time? Or on the other side of it, I don't understand why I'm this way. Yeah? We all have these things. So I go around and I work with organizations and help them answer those questions. Why do people do what they do? And why do I do what I do? And then we help people make that jump into the behaviors and the mindsets that they would like to be in that we can't figure out how to get to on our own. So emotional intelligence is the name of the game. So I work a lot with helping people build self-awareness. The statistics around self-awareness are fascinating. So 95% of people think that we're self-aware. In this room, raise your hand if you think you're pretty self-aware. Raise your hand really high if you're like, I don't think I'm very self-aware. So the statistics are very similar in this room. So 95% of people think they're self-aware. About 95% of people in this room raised their hand and said, yeah, I'm pretty self-aware. I know me pretty well. The real statistics, anyone might take a stab at what percentage of people are actually self-aware?
42.
Okay, that's very specific. What do you think? 25. 25? 10 to 15.
No.
So 10 to 15% of people are self-aware and 95% think we're self-aware. So what that means is that most of us are kind of walking through our communities, walking through our lives blind to our own blind spots. They're called blind spots for a reason, and blind to how other people actually perceive us and our impact on other people. And the dangerous thing about self-awareness is that once we start to claim that we are self-aware, our brain turns off to external feedback. So we actually go backwards. So once we start to say, oh yeah, I am super self-aware, then I stop actually taking in feedback and I stop being curious. Now you can turn that back on. So we have to be really careful with claiming that, which is a funny position for me to be in as someone who teaches self-awareness. Hopefully I have a level of self-awareness that's not embarrassing me every time I step on stage. So the second component of emotional intelligence is regulation, how we regulate our own emotions. That's the whole idea of I can be okay when other people are not okay, and I can be okay when I'm not okay. So we all have these disruptive events that happen in our lives. We get pulled over, we have career changes, we have all of these things that happen. Our kids make us mad, someone cuts us off in traffic. We have all of these things that kind of upset us. Emotional regulation is our ability to maintain composure while also not suppressing the emotion that we're feeling. So emotional regulation is a huge part of emotional intelligence. The next part is motivation. So intrinsic motivation, understanding why we do what we do and being able to motivate ourselves to do those things without the things outside of us. So without the feedback from someone else, without the money, without the whatever, we can motivate ourselves internally to do what we need to do. So think about, did anyone set a New Year's resolution this year? No? Okay, no New Year's resolutions. Has anyone set a New Year's resolution before?
Yes.
Yeah. And then you said you want to set a New Year's resolution around health? I'm going to work out this year. It never lasts, right? That's the point. So intrinsic motivation is what makes it last. When they say like if you're going to join a gym in a new year, do it on February 1st or like the second week of January once everyone who's not going to continue going to the gym has quit. So intrinsic motivation is the thing that makes us keep going because we know that it's fulfilling a deeper need for us rather than waiting for external validation, external feedback to keep us going. Then we have empathy. That's our ability to relate with other people's emotions without taking those emotions on as our own. And then finally is social skills. That's our read the room meter. That's our ability to step into a room and understand who we need to be in that room, what's appropriate in that room, without losing track of our own authenticity in the process. So obviously emotional intelligence is pretty loaded. There's a lot that goes to it, and it's a never-ending spectrum. We're always building and developing our emotional intelligence, hopefully. So the work that I do is really helping organizations and teams implement those soft skills into their teams so that we can have less conflict, more productivity, we achieve higher goals, those kinds of things. I have an Enneagram 7 that's on my profile here. So has anyone heard of the Enneagram personality assessment before? A few people. So Enneagram is the assessment, the tool that I use to help teach emotional intelligence. It's the best tool that I've found that really gives us an inside look at how we're motivated. I'm an Enneagram 7. That means that I am motivated by a need to experience everything and avoid pain and discomfort. So I am constantly seeking joy and avoiding anything that's not fun. So that's, I'm a good time. And, but that also can mean that sometimes 7s, sometimes we miss the point because we're looking for the fun thing. So when it comes to building our developing our emotional intelligence, Enneagram shows me what I get to work on. And since I've been working with this tool, my entire life has changed. My career has changed. My relationships are better. Everything in my life has changed. And I'll share some personal stories around that in a little bit. Okay, let's have a reality check moment. Who in this room, in the last 6 months, has had some sort of reality check? Maybe everyone in this room. Yeah. What happens during those reality check moments?
Question everything.
Question everything. Yeah, like what? Like what kinds of things are you starting to question?
Everything.
Everything.
No, I mean, seriously, it's just, like you said, why do you do stuff the way you do after seeing something that has made you have that reality check? Well, why am I still doing this? Or why shouldn't I be doing something else? But yeah.
Yeah, how did I end up here? Why am I still doing this? Yeah. What else? What else happens for us? Yeah, clarity. Clarity. Does anyone else get like super crystal clear when you have these reality check moments? Sometimes people get really clear. Sometimes it makes things more confusing. Yeah, so I'm hearing more of that. Yep. The idea is hopefully after today, we can point people a little bit more towards clarity because we're going to teach you some skills on how to get there. We start to question everything. We either get clarity or cloudy. What else happens? What happens physically for you? Stress, anxiety. I can tell, and I'm very in tune with what's happening in my body all the time, which is a blessing and a curse. Whenever I'm stressed or something happens, I have these reality check moments. I feel my heart rate increase. I feel like hot. Anyone else? You feel puffy. Your cortisol makes you puffy. So these reality check moments happen for all of us. And the idea is hopefully after today, we can give ourselves some resources. So when we have these reality check moments that are typically in our control or outside of our control, usually outside of our control, right? So when we have these reality check moments, the idea is that we can separate ourselves from what we can control and what we can't control to help us create more clarity and move forward in a direction that we can actually be proud of. Who here is their best self when they're stressed? No? Okay, good. That means maybe we have a little bit of a read on that. I've had people raise their hand when I asked that question before, and I'm like, false. We should talk. So we're going to talk more about that here today. So we're going to talk about the brain to start off. I am going to start this by saying I am not a neuroscientist, and I am not a psychologist or therapist, but I'm fascinated by the brain. And the more I learn about how the brain works, the more compassion I have for myself, and the more understanding I have about how to be a better person. So we're going to talk about Paul MacLean's triune brain theory. So we've all heard of the amygdala in our brain. This is what we're the most familiar with. Usually when we go to trainings and stuff, if we're learning about our mental health, we usually talk about the amygdala. The amygdala is like, if this is our brain, the amygdala is kind of in the center of our brain that our brain kind of wraps around. And it's this fight or flight reptilian brain. It's when we're stressed, this is where we're coming from. I have to survive. We have our limbic brain, which layers on top of that. That's our emotions. Emotions sometimes are felt here. They actually happen here. And then we have our neocortex, which is the newest part of our brain. That is what makes us different from other species. Our neocortex is where we actually do the higher level thinking. We have logic, or language, communication, complex thinking, problem solving, all happens here. Okay, so we have these 3 parts of our brain. Okay, and what happens is when we have some sort of external stimulus, it comes into our brain as information. If it comes in for our survival instinct, the amygdala is what runs our heart rate, our breathing, our stress response, and fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. That's our fight or that's that like immediate reaction. This is what cares about safety, threat, food, shelter, survival. I must survive. The amygdala is great because that means when you touch the hot burner, your brain knows to pull your hand back before you even feel it on your skin. It keeps us safe. It's the thing that when we're driving down the road and someone cuts us off, we know to slam on our brakes and swerve before we have time to process it. Because if something like that happens, an input happens, and we have to go here and then here and then here, it takes too long. We would die. So this survival part of our brain is so important for that reason. It also helps us understand and helps us identify this is not a safe situation. When we think about our survival and our safety, sometimes it's, what are some things that make us feel safe in this room? What things make you feel safe? Snacks, food. I mean, same, I'm highly snack motivated. Like, I'm just a dog, basically. Just feed me snacks, I'll do whatever. So snacks, what else? What else makes you feel safe?
My partner.
Money in the bank, a partner.
Yeah.
Yep, so connection, resources, food, your home. Yep, what else? Pets. Yeah. Anything else makes you feel safe? No, not being judged. Acceptance. Absolutely. So when those kinds of things for us are challenged, when those triggers are tripped, we go right into our survival instinct. So food is one where if I'm starving, I'm going to do whatever I can to find food. Right? That's a survival thing. Connection and belonging is a survival thing for humans, but it's not quite as urgent as a need for food or water, right? However, for some of us, it's not as big of a deal. For some of us, it's the whole deal. If our connection is broken, or we have a fear of our connection being broken, we go right into fight or flight, or freeze or fawn, which may or may not be the appropriate reaction in that moment. Okay. So when we think about the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, has anyone heard of fawn? That's like the fourth survival. So this is a newer one. I'll talk about what that means here in a second. So when the future feels uncertain or the current moment feels uncertain, the nervous system goes into this protection mode. So first, one of our reactions is to fight. Fight. So sometimes that's physical, sometimes it's a verbal sparring, sometimes it's a defensiveness. That fight mode can look different for all of us. Flight is run away, physically run away. If a bear's chasing you, you're probably going to run away. You're not going to stand there and try to fight it. Who would fight the bear? Really stand your ground. That's true. Maybe just make a lot of noise. So a flight is where we're running away from the challenge. And that could also look like escapism. So that can look like binge watching Netflix. That can look like getting lost in our phone. That can look like leaving a relationship before trying to solve the problem. It can look like a lot of different things. That's flight. Freeze, because I don't know what to do, so I'm stuck. So sometimes that physically, has anyone ever been in a situation where there's some sort of thing happening and you don't know what to do, so you just go like that? So sometimes it literally means you can't move. I remember, does anyone here ski? Snow ski? Okay, I am not a skier. I am not an athletic person. And I went skiing in Colorado several years ago. And I'm actually pretty good for someone who doesn't ski. But I remember I fell and I was fine. But I had this moment where I looked down the mountain and I was like, well, if I fall again, I might never stop falling. And I was on a blue. It wasn't like it was a black diamond where, like doing jumps or whatever. This was a safe situation overall. But I remember I looked down this mountain and I'm standing like this on the side of it with my skis and I couldn't move. I was crying and I was fine. I was crying and I couldn't move. Literally frozen to the side of the mountain. The only thing that got me to go down is that I saw someone being taken down the mountain because they were too scared to. And I was like, that's not going to be me. And so I just held my breath and went. But freeze can literally mean that we freeze. It can also mean that we just stay stuck. It can mean that we just do nothing. This might look like checking out. This might look like dissociating. This might look like looking busy but not being busy. It might look like knowing there's a problem that needs to be solved and doing nothing about that thing until it becomes something you can't ignore. So that can be freeze. And then fawn. Fawn is when is our survival mechanism for creating a bond or creating a connection or people pleasing. So sometimes when we are in a fight or flight, like danger kind of situation, our best outcome might come, at least instinctively, from befriending that person. You hear about this is a kind of an extreme example, but you hear about this from like people who have been kidnapped and then they get to know the person who's kidnapped them, or they like share things, they like create a bond because it makes you feel safe if you can make someone like you. So sometimes this can look like anxious attachment. It can look like when a friend is upset with you and you can't leave it alone, you have to go after them and fix the problem, right? So fawn can look like that. Does anyone in here know what your tendency is? You just kind of get a feeling for like if something happens, yeah. What are some of those tendencies for you?
Mine is flight. My
Flight.
husband would say that because I like see something and I start running. It's like, are you gonna tell me? It's still fine for me. Yeah, what are you running from?
Yeah. Yep, so flight. Do you know what yours is?
Flight.
Flight?
Flight, yeah.
I would say mine's fight.
Fight?
Makes it head on. If,
Yeah.
you know, there's a couple weeks ago, I was at a Dollar Tree with my daughter and someone comes in with a gun. And I'm like, you know, looking for the exit, grabbing the little kids, you know, trying to face it head on. So definitely fight.
Oh my gosh, that's terrifying. Absolutely. So we all have a tendency toward one of these, and we all experience all of them. And it's situational. However, if we stay in this mode for too long, in this fight, flight, freeze, fawn situation, we're going to talk about what that creates, but we don't want to stay in this place. The second part of the brain is our limbic brain. That's our emotions. So this is the part of our brain that processes our feelings, our memories. It makes meaning of things and our past experiences. So you go into a dollar store and there's a dangerous situation. I actually had a situation. I was at a coffee shop downtown and I'm sitting there having coffee with a friend and I hear a loud noise and someone had grabbed their backpack and a gun fell out of this person's backpack onto the floor. Onto the floor. Right, like probably from here to that table to me. Terrifying. Okay? Every time I go to that coffee shop now, what do you think I'm doing?
Looking for book bags.
Looking for book bags. Looking for the person that I saw had that gun in his backpack. And nothing happened, fortunately. And he grabbed his thing and he left. But that alone, right? Every time I don't go to that coffee shop anymore. I've been back twice. And both times I'm like, it's not worth it. Even though the environment was different, I had connected the place with an occurrence and it sent me into the survival instinct. So sometimes that can be helpful and sometimes that can be prohibitive. Yeah. But the limbic brain is what processes our emotions. Then we have this third layer of our brain, which is our neocortex. Real quick, happy. And this is our logic part. So this is what does our processes: logic, planning, decision making, perspective, long-term thinking, and self-control. So this part of our brain either turns on or off. We either have access to it or we don't have access to it based on the level of perceived threat. So has anyone ever been in a situation where you look back at how you reacted and you're like, well, that was not how I wanted to handle that? Yeah, we've all been there, right? We've all been there. I know. Does anyone have kids? Yes. I remember when my stepson, who's now 15, was probably, this is actually a good one. He was in second grade and he tried out for the talent show at his school. Now, Parker doesn't really have like a talent, like a big talent that he does. So he comes home from school and he's like, Chelsea, I tried out for the talent show today. And I'm like, doing what? And he goes, well, I played the piano. And I'm like, but you don't play the piano. He literally tried out for the talent show playing piano and has never played in his life. But he was hitting these buttons or hitting these keys thinking he was making music. The next day he comes home so upset because he finds out he didn't make it into the talent show. He didn't make it in, which I'm like, yeah. He went directly into fight. He was yelling, he was screaming, he was crying. It was my fault that we never got him piano lessons. Yeah? And I'm looking at him like, what is going on? I didn't even know you wanted piano lessons. And at this time, I didn't understand the brain at this level. But he had no access to hear because what had happened, also he's in second grade. But what had happened was that he didn't have access here because his emotions were so strong that he believed in that moment that it was either breaking connection or it was making him not worthy. He wasn't worthy. And so it sent him directly into the survival instinct and he went into fight. He had no access to logic because of that. We've all been in those situations before, right? Anyone ever yell at your kids and you walk away and you're like, man, not what I wanted to do. There's a lot of research, so this is a side note, there's a lot of research around, as parents, we're highly imperfect people. And, but the repair is actually more important than the fight. So if you do the wrong thing with your kid, the repair is like doubly important. There's a researcher, Dr. Becky, something. Her Instagram is Dr. Becky Goodinside. Has anyone heard of her? Oh, she's amazing. Like life changing. But she talks about that, how the repair is actually the most important. And that I would assume that that's true with adults too. When you do something wrong, what is our tendency? You do something wrong in a relationship with someone. Apologize, hopefully. Yeah, hopefully. Does anyone just go, hopefully it never comes back up again? That's what we do. That's what a lot of us do. Like, I hope that doesn't come back up. Or if it does, but the repair means that we're proactively going and trying to fix the thing. So, for these three parts of our brain, we don't always have access to this neocortex logic part. And so when we are in those reality check moments in our lives, where do you think we're going? Here. Maybe here. And that sends us here. Unless we interrupt the process. So the whole idea is not to deactivate our survival brain. Survival brain is important. Our amygdala is important. It serves a very, very clear purpose. Important purpose. We don't want to ignore that. Gut instinct, survival instinct is critically important for our survival. We want to listen to that. However, the goal is to notice when it's running the show. We want to notice when the amygdala is running the show versus when we are. And all it takes is a second. There's a book called Behave. And now I'm forgetting who it's by. Anyway, there's a book called Behave that's about this. It's fascinating. And the first chapter of the book is called The Second Before. So our amygdala brain sends us into action immediately. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Immediately we go there. What happens that second before is what creates that response. And so if we can interrupt that thought or interrupt that process the 1 second before we jump into our amygdala brain or our survival brain, then we have an opportunity to change our behavior and move into more of that logic brain. Okay, so when stress stays on, so if our amygdala is always activated, well, in either way, so if our amygdala is activated at all, it pushes two hormones into our body, adrenaline and cortisol. We want adrenaline and cortisol. These are important components of our body. So the brain prepares you to survive. So it increases your heart rate, it sharpens your focus, it redirects your blood to your muscles, slows digestion, suppresses immune function. Anything that's not critical for me to survive in this moment, I don't need it. And our amygdala triggers that adrenaline and cortisol and helps us swerve out of the way, slam on the brakes, run from the bear, whatever we need to do. Fight the bear. It helps us with that. In short bursts, it's highly protective, but if it's on too long, it's destructive to our bodies. When our adrenaline is on too long, or when our amygdala is triggered for too long or too frequently, makes it harder to focus. We have indecision or overthinking, brain fog. When we talked about, you either get really clear or things get really cloudy. When you're in that reality check moment, that's what's happening. We catastrophize, we have a shorter attention span, our anxiety spikes. Emotionally, we get irritable or reactive. This is why we aren't our best selves when we're stressed. Because we get reactive, we get cynical, we're less patient, we maybe even be prone to depression. And in our physical body, we can't sleep as well. We're tense. Literally, physically, muscles get tense when this happens. Digestive challenges, fatigue, but wired. Then health issues. Also puffiness. Like you'll notice, like you might just feel puffy. Like you have more inflammation in your body. When you have cortisol, they call it cortisol face. Have you guys heard of that? Where people who are chronically under stress typically have just like puffier faces because this cortisol is always running through your body. You might even notice if you have a poor night of sleep or if you have a stressful day, when you wake up the next morning, you might look in the mirror and be like, something's not quite right about my face. That sometimes is what it is. We have physical reactions to the stress being triggered for too long. Now, for sleep, I'm a huge advocate for sleep hygiene. Sleep is the most important thing that we can do. Anyone struggle with sleep? Yeah. A lot of people struggle with sleep. If we don't sleep, the rest of this is really hard to heal. It's hard for us to access that neocortex of our brain because we don't have the energy. It takes more energy to go to that place. And it sends us into that survival place because our body is not safe. So do we want more of this or less of this? Less of this stress, right? So how do we interrupt that? Before I have a thing I'll share with you all, but what about in this room? Are there ways that you know that you rely on to calm your nervous system and get you out of that stress response that work for you every time?
For me, it's exercise.
Exercise.
Go down there and hammer it out.
Yep. Exercise is, I was just watching a video from a physician had put out this video just the other day about for mental health disorders. Then if there was one cure that they could offer, exercise is the one thing. Walking, lifting, swimming, biking, whatever it is, yoga, exercise, they say, is the best way to make sure that you have a higher stress tolerance over time. In the moment of a stressful situation, it may not be the best place to go, because you might not always be able to leave a situation to go pump some weights really quick. However, exercise makes you more resilient. Absolutely. What were you gonna say back here?
For me, it's music and meditation. I have
Yep.
lifetime subscription of Balance.
What's the app?
Balance.
I don't know that one.
Yeah.
I have the Calm app, but
Yeah, I use the Calm. Balance is-
balance. Okay, good to know. Yeah, meditation. Anyone meditate? Meditation or prayer, those kinds of things. Music, yeah.
That's a maybe a tee off of that, but breathing.
Breathing.
Moment, put down, calm your nervous system, deep breathing.
Yep.
Just, just to-
Yep. I have a 5-year-old, and every time he gets really upset, we're working on regulation right now. Every time he gets upset, I just look at him like, his name's Dave. I'm like, Dave, let's take a deep breath. And he's like, it's not gonna work. Every time I'm like, I promise you it's done. He'll do it at school. He won't do it for me. But yeah, breathing. Yeah.
Like the five senses things, like
Yeah.
five things you can see, 4 things you can hear, and then so on.
Yeah.
That typically helps me.
Yeah. Yeah, because oftentimes our brain goes to the what ifs, the catastrophizing. There's too many things, and you lose track of who you are, where you are in the moment, what's actually going on. So the 5 senses can bring you back into the moment. Absolutely. Any other? I saw that somewhere.
I try to just focus on what is critical right that second. What do I need to do to move out?
Yeah. Anyone seen Frozen, the movie Frozen? Say the next right thing, the next right thing, the next right thing, the next right thing, because the big picture could be pretty terrifying or pretty overwhelming. So what's the one next thing I can do?
Let it go.
Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. That's, but I mean, so some people literally, if they need to let it go, will shake their body, shake it off, go for a walk.
I think humor is another one.
Humor, yeah.
I do questions to myself, so I can reflect about how I'm feeling what.
Yeah, so acknowledging and asking yourself the question, like, what am I actually experiencing? That can be so grounding, because sometimes all we experience, I know for myself, I'll share it for me, when I am in a stressful moment, when I am overwhelmed, I don't know what I'm actually feeling. And if someone says, how can I help you? I'm like, I don't know what I even feel, let alone how you can help. So even just that presencing moment of, okay, what am I actually feeling? Or where am I feeling it in my body? That can be really grounding. So I'm a huge advocate for breathing. Even if it's just one deep breath before you do a thing. You know, I talked about when I was stuck on the side of the mountain, when I decided it was time for me to not be stuck anymore, what I did was, and then I went. It was a breath. Does anyone do breathing exercises? So there's breath work can be a really, really great way to regulate your nervous system in general. But the reason I like this so much is because it doesn't matter what situation you are in. It doesn't matter where you are. This will work. So square breathing, we're gonna all do it together so we can practice it. Square breathing is where you breathe in for the count of 4, and you hold it for the count of 4. You breathe out for the count of 4, and you hold it out for the count of 4. So in 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, out 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4. Okay? So we're gonna do it together. So everybody take a deep breath in. 2, 3, 4, hold. 2, 3, 4, out. 2, 3, 4, hold it out. 2, 3. And then do that on your own a couple times. I feel less stressed just watching you guys do it. Okay, does anyone feel calmer after that? For me, it's this breath here, that out breath, holding that out breath is what makes me feel the calmest. But this could be a really great thing that you can do to interrupt. I loved all of the other options too, the other ideas that you guys had. So We're going to talk next about reacting versus responding. So when we are in this stress mode, reality check, stress, our amygdala, we react. This is where we are impulsive, our emotions are driving the show. Often it's an unconscious behavior. Has anyone ever had it where you react and then you're like, I don't remember doing that, or I don't know why I did that. Like, that's not like me, that's out of character for me, that's not something I would do. Or that's not something I would say. So it often drives unconscious behavior to a trigger. So something outside of us happens, we react. This is the part of us that we are not proud of, typically. Or that keeps us safe. So when we react, we're often seeking immediate gratification or an immediate solution. We're not thinking about the future, I have to survive right now. When we respond, this is when we get to be more thoughtful, intentional, calm, and we take action that involves pausing, processing, and choosing a solution-oriented path. That's that neocortex brain. We have to be able to get there. So we have to redirect our emotions potentially in order to respond appropriately to a situation. And this considers our long-term consequences. So we're not just thinking about right now, I need to survive. We're thinking about right now, I have this situation, and how I respond to this situation determines the next one and the next one and the next one. But that big picture is not always possible for us to see in the moment. So let's talk really quick about, like, when I think about respond, I think about responsibility. Respond or responsibility has the same root word. Think about someone you know, you were not going to share the name of the person, heaven forbid. We're not doing that here. Think about a person you know who's just, you think about them and you're like, that is a highly irresponsible person. Everyone have someone in their mind? Highly irresponsible person. What are some of the characteristics and behaviors of this person?
Procrastination.
Procrastination, impulsive,
Lack of motivation.
lack of. Okay, now think of the most responsible person you know. What are some of the characteristics and behaviors of that person? Calm. They say the best when there's a crisis going on, everyone looks around the room for the calmest person in the room, and that's who they trust and follow.
Just present.
Present. Yeah, that neocortex is running the show. They're not jumping into fight or flight. They're choosing their direction. They're choosing their behavior. They're guiding. They're reliable. You know, you can trust them. They're calm. They're not getting all fired up. For myself, historically, I've been a lot here. So operating from the past, reacting to life circumstances versus responding. My circumstances are bigger than me. There is not enough guilt, resentment, blame, and wit. We all go here. We all do. Especially in those reality check moments. Like you mentioned earlier, right? It makes you question everything. How did I end up here? Then why does this keep happening to me? It's not bad to go here. The idea, though, is we want to shift into responsible mindset, where we're acting from the present, we're responding versus reacting to life circumstances. We believe and trust and know that we are bigger than our circumstances. There's always enough, and this is where we come into acceptance, forgiveness, and compassion. Okay? So we're going to talk today about the responsibility spectrum, and this is where we're going to get a little bit more interactive. So there's 4 parts of the responsibility spectrum, and it ties pretty closely into the neocortex in our brain. So we have level 1, 2, 3, and 4. Level 1 responsibility is, this is happening to me. I'm a victim to my circumstances. Life keeps happening to me. Why does this keep happening? Why me? Why me? Why me? We all go here. We don't want to stay there. We all go here. It's natural and normal, and we're going to go up and down the spectrum in any given day. Level 2 is, I'll deal with it. Like, the reality is the reality. Just deal with it. I'm just going to get through it. Maybe I have a little bit of power and control here, but I'll get through it. So we're not happy about it. Or maybe like gossiping a little, we're complaining, but we're doing something about it. Level 3 is, I'm responsible for how I show up. This is when we start to take responsibility for, okay, maybe I'm gonna take a deep breath. I have a little bit of a view, more of a view of what the long-term situation looks like. I have more of my neocortex, access to my neocortex. We can be a little bit more present and a little bit more proactive. And level 4 is something that isn't part of the triune brain theory. This is where I'm responsible for the impact I create. Because what you choose to do has ripple effects outside of you. Every single thing that you do has a ripple effect outside of you. Whether you choose to react or respond, there's something that happens as a result. And so who you choose to be in any given moment, in any given situation, is the whole story. I often tell people I do trainings on feedback. Who in here loves feedback? Few of you. Does anyone hate feedback? You love and hate it? Yeah. Depends on the kind of feedback,
Yeah.
right? Like what am I setting myself up for? So I am a person who teaches feedback and who's a huge advocate for it. And yet every time I receive feedback, or I know I'm going to receive feedback, I have a little bit of a freak out moment inside. Because one of my motivations is that I want to be admired and I want to do a good job and I want people to like me. And so anytime I think that I might have messed something up or offended someone or made someone mad or I wasn't perfect or I didn't present myself well, I kind of freak out a little bit. So I have to really have to calm myself down. But oftentimes when I'm talking about feedback, I share the phrase that everything is feedback. Everything around us is feedback. Our body is feedback. How our body feels is feedback. Our relationships are feedback. Our bank account is feedback. Our calendar is feedback. Everything around us, our entire experience of our life is feedback. Our experience or the feedback that we're receiving is a direct result of the actions and behaviors that we are and the mindsets that we are choosing. And that's where this comes in. This is how we get to choose. Okay. So I'm going to share, we're going to walk through a story. Everyone remember the pandemic? Yeah, we were all here for that. So this is day one of when we were all sent home. I was a financial advisor at the time. I had a growing practice. I worked for myself. This is me going in to the office, obviously thrilled, thinking, why? Literally, this was on my Instagram. Why? This is me in level 1. Why is this happening to me? I am a social person. I need to be around humans. Why can't I go into the office? Why do I have to be afraid? Or is there no toilet paper on the shelves? Like, why? This is level 2. This is, okay, I'll deal with it. I blanked out some curse words here from my Instagram page. Obviously, I was being a little bit dramatic. Like, those sure were the days. I feel trapped in my house, but I'm going to wear my mask. I'm going to put on a smile. I'm in a social distance, but it's not so bad. I was productive. I had coffee with a friend until I heard that this would last till July. So I'm still in kind of some victimhood mentality. And it obviously lasted longer than that. But this is like day 4 of the pandemic. Okay. Where I'm like, okay, I'm not in my like why mopey phase anymore, but I'm still pretty upset about what's happening. Level 3 is I'm responsible for how I show up. So I was like, okay, we're going to be home. I started taking afternoon naps in my hammock. I miss those days. Like truly. I think for month 3 and 4 of the pandemic, I was the happiest and healthiest I've ever been. I spoke on a panel about how to do business in the new environment. I was helping people. It's like, what does it say? This sucks, but it's all temporary. We have to keep moving forward. Life will pick back up soon. We can't let ourselves be behind when it does. No excuses. I'm really trying to like uplift. I'm choosing things like my son out measuring 6 feet in between chairs so my parents could come over. My mom and I wore masks and I had a wine Wednesday group Zoom call with my girlfriends, and we would drink wine on Zoom and we'd wear funny outfits. I started working out. I drove to Yellowstone because I would never do that otherwise. I learned how to sew. I played dress up. I hadn't done that since I was a kid. I started having fun. I supported local businesses. I started a garden. So I'm responsible for how I show up. If this is my reality, I'm responsible for who I'm going to be in it. That's a much better place to be, right? But level 4 is where it gets interesting, because this is where we start to really see the impacts outside of us and see the ripple effects. So one of the things that I did during the pandemic, these are 3 different things I did that had an impact outside of me, ripple effects. One is I started sending snail mail to people. I put a thing, again on Instagram, I put a thing on my Instagram page that said, who needs to hear something positive? Send me your address and I'll mail you something. And so I had these little cute little affirmation cards, and I had handwritten, I had like a whole thing of cards and stamps, and I hand wrote personal notes to probably 50 people and mailed them to them. I started doing sidewalk chalk in our neighborhood because, you know, we were all stuck in our houses and it's the spring, so everyone was taking walks. And so I started putting positive messages on our driveway, and then I would sit in my living room and I'd watch people walk through the neighborhood. And I'd watch them take pictures, and they'd stand here for happiness. They'd lay down and hold the barbell on the ground. It was just little delights for people. And then I started posting. I put a thing on my Instagram feed again, and then I would go through and like just give people compliments, and I'd post them on my feed. And this was just a quarter of the messages that I sent out. So I started taking how I was feeling and translating that to an actual impact outside of myself. Okay? Having an impact, creating that ripple effect. Because what I do and who I am responsible for what happens outside of me and around me. I'm responsible for the pandemic and how it goes, even if it's in a tiny, small way. And that's the mindset shift we want to have. That we want to get from, I am a victim to my circumstances, to I have an impact and I can change the situation for myself and for other people. So, what we're going to do is we're going to walk through this for ourselves. So what I'd love for you guys to do is pull out a piece of paper. If you have one. Yeah, that'll work.
There you go. I won't be able to read it, but I'm done.
That's why you used to work with girls. I just, yeah. I got last one.
Does everyone have a piece of paper?
I might have something.
Trying to find a note I made about this. Okay, so on your piece of paper, I would like for you to draw a grid like this. Just with 4 boxes. And if you're doing it on your phone, you can, however that makes sense for you. And at the top of this grid, I want you to write down a situation that you are currently dealing with that is difficult for you to manage, that feels stressful for you. And you can choose anything. And we are going to ask for some people to share. You will not be asked to share if yours is private. So if this is something you really want to like spend some time with, I encourage you to do that. You do not have to share, but we will ask for a couple of people to share when we're done.
Doing one thing or multiple things?
Just one thing. I know it's lots of things, right? Just choose one thing.
You said, hey,
Yeah, one thing that you're currently stressed about that you're having a hard time with.
Which box?
Sorry, at the very top here. Sorry. Okay. I'm looking for something really quick. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend some time going through each of these boxes, and I'm going to guide you through it. So regarding this situation that you wrote down on your paper, put yourself into level 1 mentality. Okay, this is happening to me. And just write down some of your thoughts. How do you feel? What are your thoughts? What are some of the things that come to your mind about this situation that relate to level 1? We're gonna have a couple things written in there, one or two things. Okay. Now let's move to that second box, level 2. Put yourself in this situation again. How can you think about this from level 2? Like, I will deal with it. This is where we are realizing we're not totally a victim to our circumstances, but we're not really happy about it yet either. Kinds of things are going through your mind in this space. We can keep coming back to these two if you need more time, but now let's move on to level 3. Same thing. I am responsible for how I show up. Taking some action. I'm making choices. I'm changing my mindset to something more optimistic. Maybe you're not here yet about this situation, so this might be a harder one for you. Is it still focused on you, what you think, what you can do? Okay. Now, box 4 is where it gets a little trickier oftentimes for people to connect the dots. So in this box, I want you to write and think about regarding the situation at the top of your page. First thing is, what is the influence that you want to have regarding this situation? What is the impact? What is the big picture? What's possible? What's possible regarding the situation? What might be also be helpful in this box is, what do I want? What do I want this outcome to become? Everybody have a few things written in each box? Before we go on to this next step, what was this exercise like for you?
Thought-provoking.
Thought-provoking? Do you want to share anything that came up for you?
Just how important it is for me. Well, I'll just tell you guys, we're having a 70th birthday party for my mom in June. So just kind of made me think about how I feel once it's done and
Yeah.
what we're doing to accomplish it. So making that lady smile.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's the goal, right?
Absolutely.
The goal is, and so this is such a good example because it's a sweet one too, right? Because sometimes the things that are stressing us out are not so sweet. But we have something sweet that we're planning, a 70th birthday for your mom. There's a lot of things that have to happen for a 70th birthday to come together.
Oh, yes.
Yeah? Maybe, is it a surprise?
No,
Okay, so that helps.
yes.
But there's a guest list, there's a place to host it, there's cleaning or reserving, there's money, there's food, there's decorations, there's coordination.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes, we get stuck in the minutia of doing the thing. And we go to level 1. I'm like, why do I even sign up for this? Like, why doesn't somebody else do this? Can't my sibling take this on? Why aren't they doing anything?
And I'm
Right?
the oldest. Of
And
course.
you're the oldest,
Yeah.
of course. Making a lot of assumptions that maybe you're landing. So we jump, and we have all of these things to do. We go there typically. We lose sight of what we're actually doing, which is creating a once in a lifetime positive experience to put a smile on the face of the woman that raised you and that you love. Yeah? And we can presence ourselves to that. All the to-dos, easy. And we might even, when we can presence ourselves to that, we can also maybe agree that maybe some of the stuff we're stressed out about doesn't even need to be taken care of, doesn't even need to be done. Yeah, so when we can presence ourselves to the point, to the impact, to the influence, our actions become a lot easier and a lot cleaner. What other reflections? Going through this.
If you think about some of the things that you have on your list, you can take control of them and you can have a positive outcome or spin-off.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. When you think about those things, when you write these things down, you actually get a clearer view of what you have control over. Yeah. And you can do something about it. You can choose your mindset. Yeah. We have to slow ourselves down. Because what happens when we're stressed again, as we move into the amygdala, fight or flight, I gotta get this thing done, I gotta get this thing done, I gotta get this thing done. And then we're worn out, we're stressed, we can't think about, we lose track of the bigger picture. But if we can take a moment to pull ourselves out of it, figure out what we can control, what's actually important, we can take action in a meaningful way that we're going to be proud of down the road. Maybe without biting the head off of our brother or sister for not helping out with living condition.
She hit the nail on the head.
I might have a brother that I go ahead with every now and then. That's why I've had to learn this stuff. Anybody else want to share you don't have to share your situation, but your reflections about going through this exercise?
I feel like in box 1 and 2, it was very emotional.
Yeah. Anyone else have that experience? Box 1 and 2, you're emotional about it. Yeah. How did that transition for you in those other 2 boxes?
It became more positive.
Yeah.
Like I kind of went from like anger and sadness to like, it was almost kind of like a breath, but moving into like creating more.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you start to see that shift in possibility? And start to see that shift in your control? So you can do this. It takes what we think we did it in like 5 minutes. You can do this for any situation that you're dealing with. Conflict with a coworker. Anything. Big or small. So as we go through this here, hold on, I'm shedding. I think it's really important to presence ourselves to what we want. So this is the most important question I ask my clients when I do coaching is what do you want? What do you want to happen? So I'll share, are you guys cool if I share a personal story?
Go for it.
So I got divorced. My divorce was finalized in January this year. So last year was a divorce year. Anyone in here ever been divorced? Gotten divorced? Did all the divorced people sit over here? What is going on? So I got divorced last year. To preface this story, I am not a person who's pro-divorce, but I'm also not a person who's pro-staying in a marriage that doesn't work. Okay, so just to preface that. Jillian and I were talking about this earlier. I made a post about this on Facebook and I went viral. So 1.7 million views. I made money on the post. It was like a whole thing. So my story is out there. So I figured it would be safe to share it here. So the way that my divorce happened though, my ex-husband and I have a great relationship. We're co-parenting 2 kids. Great relationship. Costs $190 to get divorced. Okay. $190. I don't know anyone else. Does anyone else have $190 divorce?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
No.
I would love for more people to have that. So hopefully this story is inspiring. So, but to back up, my ex-husband and I had been together for 12 years. We had been through a lot together. He's a great person. I'm a good person. Like, there was nothing big that happened. But over and over again, I found myself struggling with this question because I found myself being so frustrated and stuck in all sorts of different ways. Life, relationships, financially, I just felt stuck and sad. And I couldn't figure out why, because my life looked really good. And my life was really good. And I had healthy kids and a great family and supportive partner, all these things. But I didn't know what I wanted. And so none of what I was doing felt like it had meaning. Does anyone relate to this? You've all been through those phases at times where you're like, what am I even doing? And I was reflecting through a journal, reflecting through past journal posts or journal entries. And this is the question that came up over and over and over again. But what do I even want? And I couldn't answer the question. So fast forward to March of last year, I have had a keynote that I've always wanted to deliver in my head since I was born. So the backstory is I was born the day before the San Francisco earthquake in '89 during the World Series where the Bay Bridge collapsed. I was in Des Moines, Iowa, very far from San Francisco where that happened. But my mom was in the hospital holding me. I was like 12 hours old and she's watching the World Series and the TV goes off and this earthquake happens. And she looked at me and she said, do you see that? Chelsea shook the world. Which is like the sweetest sentiment. And so my whole life, that was on every birthday card. Has been still. Like, you're here to shake the world. You're shaking the world. Go shake the world, Chelsea. Like this little go get them. And so my whole life, that's been my mantra. That's been my purpose. And so I have taken risks that maybe other people wouldn't take because I'm here to shake the world. I had this internal purpose that was driving me forward. And for years, I didn't feel like I was doing anything with it. And so in March of last year, the end of March, I sat down and I wrote my keynote. I wrote the first version of it. It just poured out of me, came out, and all of a sudden I could see everything that I wanted. Like, I want to speak on big stages. I want to have an actual impact. This is how I see, and I could close my eyes and I can just feel it. Here's how I want to look. Here's how I want to feel on that stage. And all of a sudden it got very clear to me. Everything in my life that did fit and that didn't fit. And then I made every decision one at a time that I needed to make my life happen the way that I wanted it to. And the question that kept coming up was, what do you want? Do you still want that? And the next question was, are you going to continue to choose this? Are you going to continue to choose this? Are you going to continue to choose this? Just that question guided me every step of the way and decided if I want what I want, I couldn't stay in my marriage. But I also know that my kids and their experience is the most important thing to me. Their well-being is the most important thing. And so how I handle myself in that situation, I cannot control my ex-husband. I can control me. And the experience I want to create for them is the most important thing. And so as I made every single decision that you make to go through a divorce, that was the thing that was the guiding light. And we got divorced for $190 in 90 days with no lawyers. We were already a blended family to begin with. I still take care of my stepson half the time. We got his mom in on it. $190. And once I started sharing that experience, he's healthier now, I'm healthier now. My dreams are coming true. I think his dreams are coming true. Our kids are happy, they're thriving. In a divorce year, I started sharing this story with other people, and all of a sudden it went viral. And all of a sudden I'm getting messages from people saying that this perspective changed how they're handling their very messy divorce, that they didn't know this thing was possible, and now they know it's possible. So how I made one decision for myself and for my family, and then how I acted in that every single step of the way, how I behaved every step of the way, has changed people's lives, hopefully for the better. I know it changed mine. Divorces are not happy moments for most people. And my ex-husband and I, the day that we got our divorce finalized, we high-fived in the court, had a nice, meaningful hug outside, and we went our separate ways. We laughed. We have dinner together every couple weeks with our kids. We're both dating other people. It's like a happy outcome. But staying was not going to give us the answers that we wanted. So I share that story, one, to be a little bit vulnerable and maybe encourage a little bit of vulnerability with you in this room too, if you're open to it. But two, to just come back to this question of what do I even want? It doesn't mean we have to blow up our lives, but it does mean that we get to make a choice. And you want what you want for a reason. And that shouldn't be ignored. So, with that, half of knowing what you want is knowing what you must give up to get it. So when we're thinking about the situation that you wrote down on your paper, what do you want from that outcome? What do you actually want? Even if it's crazy. So underneath your grid, I want you to write down, what do I actually want here? What do I want? This can be insane, impossible, anything you want. If you've already written down what you want and you want to go a layer deeper, you can write down, you don't have to do this if you don't want to yet because we don't have the time, but why do you want that? What do you want and why do you want it? How does it feel to write down and to think about what you actually want? For me, it felt selfish.
Good.
If that felt good. Yeah. For me, it felt selfish. But also true. What else? Other experiences of writing down or claiming what you want. So when I claimed what I wanted, which was, I remember I went out to my son and I, he was 4 at the time, now he's 5. We went out shopping one Sunday, and as we're driving around town and whatever, I'm just daydreaming, and I'm driving through Prairie Village, and I'm like, I want to live in Prairie Village. I want to have one of those big houses on the golf course, and I want to have an island, one of those like waterfall islands. And I want to have this, and I want to go to this conference, and I want to travel, and I'm just like daydreaming about all these things that I want. And I was like, you know what? I'm ready to claim that. Like, I got so excited, and I got home, and I go to my now ex-husband, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to claim it. I'm ready to claim what I want. I'm so excited about it. And so I told him everything that I just told you. And he goes, okay, but what about this? And what about this? And what about, we have this credit card. And what about this thing? And what about that? And what about what I want? And I'm like, okay, this isn't going to happen. This isn't going to work here. Either I have to change what I want, or you have to change your mind, or I'm going. And I went. So part of knowing what we want is knowing what you have to get up to get it. That doesn't mean you have to leave a relationship or a job. But if you know that you want peace, you might have to give up the fight. If you know, what are some of the things that you guys want? Before I just throw in my own ideas. What are some of the things you guys want?
To make my kids laugh.
To make your kids laugh. To make your kids laugh, what might you have to give up? Yeah. Yeah.
Financial stability for my kids, like when I'm gone.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about my stuff.
Yep. In order to make that happen, what might you have to give up?
Be uncomfortable now.
Yeah. temporary sacrifice for the long-term goal. Yep. So sometimes it's attitudes, sometimes it's behaviors. But if we really want what we want, and I believe that every single person should have what they want. As long as it's not harming other people. And I don't believe that anything that we actually want is harmful to other people. I believe that the world works better, our relationships work better when we have what we want. Because then we're not coming from that place of lack or of scarcity or of our reptilian brain, our instinct running the show. We have purpose and we have meaning and we have intention to drive us toward what we want. And so every action from there on out is intentional and on purpose and measured. And that moves us from reacting to our life circumstances to responding to and creating our life circumstances. So with that, hold on, I'm gonna wait just a second. Would anyone like to share what your challenge is? Vulnerable moment. Would anyone like to share? One brave person.
I'll do it.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, okay. This week, my wife is out of town. Okay. And so she's out of town. And so it's like, who's gonna take care of the dog? Who's gonna cook supper? Where am I getting supper? What I gotta do for supper?
Your wife sounds like a really, really lovely person.
Oh, she is. Love her to death. You know, so, I mean, so you're worried about, yes, some things.
Yep.
But hey, where do yeah,
The things that she handles, I have to handle now.
yes.
Yeah.
So you just gotta plan your day a little bit more thoroughly than what you.
The oven work.
Yeah, exactly. What temperature do I cook it at? How long do I cook it? Yeah, I mean, all of those, which
Carry it all the way home, Randy, carry out.
that's, I do have that, carry out as an option there. So I mean, and then, hey.
There we go. Okay, that's funny. So even just sharing that, right? Somebody outside of you, you just influence someone else to want to help you.
Yeah.
Like maybe this room is gonna create a meal train for you this week.
You know, and there's always, hey, is she safe? Is she gonna make sure she comes back?
Yeah.
You know, oh, she's gonna come back, I know, but. No,
That's
I
exciting. I get it.
And she drove 8 hours by herself. She hadn't done that before. You go down 8 hours with that.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, so, and you check on her regularly and text regularly, but she's not there to talk when you get home.
Yeah.
Or to say, hey, what happened at work today? And she bugs you for 10 minutes and she wants every detail about what you did at work. So, but you know, and you don't have that interaction.
I think it's so sweet. I think it's so sweet. So that's the challenge, right? So your issue is like your wife is out of town. There's all these things that she usually handles that you are now handling.
Yes.
And also there's this connection that you're not having for however long she's gone. There's the anxiety. Does anyone else have anxiety when your kid or your spouse or someone you care about has to go like drive somewhere? Every time my mom travels for work, every time my mom gets on an airplane, I'm like, oh my God. Right? So these are real things that are happening inside of us. Okay, so where did you get to with this? Talk through it, your mindset.
Well, see, after that, then I said, hey, go get food. Then I said, hey, if I don't hear from my wife, no news is good news. Okay, so no.
So you're changing your mindset.
Yeah. And then, hey, I gotta clean the kitchen when I get done doing the dishes. And if I want to see people, I'll go see my neighbors.
Yeah.
So, and then influence the big picture. Hey, I got a happy stomach. You know, I can check her location.
Yeah.
If I want to, and hope she gets back home safe. So things are in my control, some, but
Yeah.
some are not.
Yep. Yeah, and level 4 responsibility for in this situation might look like I'm gonna take this opportunity while she's gone to learn to cook a new meal and surprise her with it when she gets back.
I tell you, I did that one time. The kids still remember. It was called Salty Pork Chop Day. So
maybe not that. Maybe
Yeah.
that's not your target.
yeah, so I did try once. No.
You know, but yeah, you have this time, so maybe it's investing in other relationships, like your neighbor or a friend or a family member you haven't talked to in a while. Maybe you're going to use this time to like add a new thing into your workout. I mean, there's all these opportunities where you can start to influence and better yourself so that what happens outside of you interpersonally and the impact, the ripple effects of your decisions during this, I mean, could have a positive impact on your marriage overall, right? So when we think about the outcome that we want to have, and even as, and you know, for some of us that might seem like a little thing, for some of us that might seem like a big thing, regardless, every single thing is a big or little thing. There's a quote, how you do one thing is how you do everything. Have you guys heard that before? How you do one thing is how you do everything. So how, if you are procrastinating one area of your life, you're also procrastinating something in other areas of your life. You're putting off something else that's also important. So how can we make the choice about how we're going to change our lives in one tiny direction at a time? Maybe it's learning to make a meal. Maybe it's connecting with a new friend. Maybe it's working an extra few hours at work. I don't know. But there's all these different decisions that we can make, tiny little bit at a time, that push us in that right direction. But when we don't know what we want, when we lose track of what we want, I find this all the time with my clients, we're kind of programmed to just go do what we got to do. Anyone agree with that? We just got to do what I got to do. And we go to work and we do this thing, and then we do this next thing, and then we do this thing, and we do this thing. Sometimes it's in our actual job, sometimes it's in our life. Sometimes, it's like, well, I meet the person, I like the person, I get engaged to the person, I marry the person, I have kids with the person, we stay together forever and retire someday. Right? That's what we're supposed to do. But very rarely do we actually take a look around and say, wait, is this what I want? Is this what I want? Because if you get all the way down this path and you decide that what you wanted is actually over there, there's a lot of ground to cover to get over there. It might not be possible. But the only better time than tomorrow is now. So every decision that we make today influences that next one tomorrow. So what I would encourage, and actually we have time, so under your grid or in it, I want everyone in here to commit to one action that you are going to take to point yourself toward that direction that you want. And for those of you who are finishing up, you'll see here, I have a QR code on the screen. I discounted my rate for this today to be with you all. So I would love an exchange if you could give me some positive feedback on this QR code, so I can put some testimonials on my website. Yeah, and I can share the QR code and then my contact information as well. What kinds of questions or comments or thoughts are coming up for you as we're ending today?
I think for me, I just feel like, is it okay if I have to figure it out?
Anyone else feel like that? Yeah. And I think, yeah, that's part of the journey. And then so, if you don't have the big picture, if you don't have sight of the big picture, maybe your goal is figuring out what you want. What I want is to figure out what I want. And so then you start to get curious and you ask questions, but none of us have it all figured out. I'd love to say that I have it all figured out. I get feedback that I present as though I have it all figured out. Do not, but I think it's I think it's perfect to not know. And there's no right answer. And there's no wrong answer. And what I do know is that when you know, you know. And so there's kind of that like gut instinct, that intuition that I think we have to trust as well. One question I ask people that sometimes triggers that, or like an answer to that, but also might make you cry. I'm going to go ahead and ask it just to get it out there. Is what are you pretending not to know? What are you pretending not to know? And most of us have an immediate answer and then an answer that we say that isn't our immediate answer. because we don't want to admit what we know, what we don't know. Or what percentage don't know, but that can be a point in the direction of what you actually want. Like, what am I pretending not to know? That immediately highlights something that you know in your life isn't working that maybe you haven't admitted yet. Sometimes if I'm journaling and I don't know what I'm going to write about, I'll just ask myself that question. What am I pretending not to know? Sometimes it's something as simple as, I know that when I eat popcorn, I will have a migraine for 3 days after. Sometimes it's as simple as that. Sometimes it's more essential. What else? Other thoughts or questions, comments?
I appreciated it because I think it gave a little bit of clarity, like, I know I'm not where I want to be, but I know where I want to get to, and like, I can make certain decisions and steps to get there. Where like, originally it was just, okay, I have this goal in mind, like, I'm not breaking it down into like specific attainable actions.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, okay, I should break it down.
Yeah. Does it give you a little bit more appreciation for the moment you're in?
Still working on that.
Still working on that.
But I have a quote that I
Yeah.
literally have hanging in my house. It's like, even where you want to go, like, make sure you're enjoying where you are.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because ultimately there's like it's common. I fall into this trap all the time where I'm like, when I'm there, then I'll be happy. But then we get there and we're like, but now I want that. Or maybe this isn't exactly what I thought it would be. And, the whole idea is it's not actually about the point. It's about who we become and the things that we do and the relationships we make along the way.
Not the destination, really.
Yeah.
Enjoy that.
Yep. And that's hard to remember when things are uncertain. But even the uncertainty and even the stuff that isn't what we want is still such an important part of our journey. I mean, I know for myself, anytime I've gone through something that impossibly hard, when I get on the other side of it, because nothing lasts forever. When I get on the other side of that thing, I'm so grateful for the thing that happened to get me to where I am. Every time. But you have to choose that. Some people never choose it. Most people, I would say, don't choose that. When I went viral for my divorce post and had 1.7 million views, a lot of the comments on there were people who never healed from their trauma or never got to the other side. People whose parents went through a messy divorce and it ruined their life, which is a perspective and does happen for people. And I don't want to minimize that. But you also get to choose how you want to see those circumstances and who you want to be. We always get to choose who we want to be in any circumstance. We just got to take that deep breath to help us connect those dots. Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you, Kelsey, for coming.
You're
There's
welcome.
still food, snacks, everyone.
Doggy bags for Randy.
You brought a Tupperware container. Load it up.
And then I'll be sending out the QR code for later today. So thank you everyone for coming.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, here you go. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you sharing. Yeah.